Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 5 of My Purpose in 10 parts. This is where I return back to the UK. My nan is falling very unwell. She had been diagnosed with cancer at this point. So, as you can imagine, I'm very close to my nan, and this news was so devastating. No words can describe it. So, as my nan was battling with health conditions, I went to find work back in the UK. So I approached a company at the time called John Lewis, and I got the job. I worked there as a chef, basically cooking for the little cafe that was downstairs. I think it was called The Place to Eat or something like that at the time. And I met a girl there. Her name was Jo. We started dating, going out, all the usual sort of stuff really like you would normally do. And I then went on holiday to America. I was really excited that I'd met this young lady. This was my first proper relationship since going through all the trauma as a child. So this was a very new chapter for me, a unexpected chapter that was starting to unravel. So I went to America for a couple of weeks. This time going to America, I was a lot older. I could drink in the bars and everything, and I was riding on the back of a Harley Davidson motorbike. But above all that, I was thinking in the back of my mind, oh, I can't wait to get back to see this girl. So I came back. We went on a few more dates. So we then decided to take it to the next level, which we rented a small one-bedroom studio house. I think at the time they were called Clipper homes. So we lived in that for, I think it was roughly a couple of years. You know, we got on really well living together. I'd never at this point, neither had she. She had never lived with anybody beforehand either. So this was a new beginning for us both. So we decided to, I decided to propose to her. So we got engaged and we were set to be married. Now, she was from a town on the outskirts of Peterborough, more rural, villagey sort. So we got plans ready for the wedding. I was supporting my nan at this point with a health battle. Also, her sons at the time weren't getting on with one another, and I stepped in to help care for my nan. You know, basically, she could look after herself. It was more of an emotional support. So that was hugely important to me. So we were getting all the plans ready for the wedding. And my God, like weddings, I can't believe how much they cost. It's just absolutely crazy. So we were getting very close to the date. We did eventually, that date came. We had a very, very nice wedding. Her parents were absolutely lovely. You couldn't wish for, at the time, better in-laws. And I, to this point today, still speak to them. So, yeah, we had, I think it was a Rolls-Royce, one of the old vintage cars that we used to get to the wedding. This was a big church wedding with bridesmaids, ushers, absolutely the full works, and her parents very kindly paid for it. So it was lovely. It cost a lot of money, and we'd also booked our honeymoon, which was in the Maldives. Now, if you've never been to the Maldives, try and go. It's something else. It was so relaxing, so peaceful. It was just something really like out of a movie. It was just stunning. We came back very quickly. We had got pregnant. So Jo at the time was pregnant with my eldest boy, who's now like 15 years old, towers over me in height. So we then basically, the lead up to Lewis being born, Jo went full term. Now, in this process, I then thought it'd be a great idea to get some extra money. So I set up a business part-time. I was working full-time at this point for a company called HouseSafe. Great company for PPE in the workplaces, and a family-run, close-knit community, a very, very nice place to work. And I was there at that point for 5 years, roughly, if memory serves me right. And that was the longest job I've ever had, and still is to this day, shamefully. So I set up this business and I named it Chef's Time. So basically I would go out and do event catering. So I would do weddings, funerals, etc., birthday parties, and it really started to take off. I'd got professional printers in, so I got a logo designed. I mean, nowadays you can do all that yourself anyway. And I basically was advertising on every possible source at the time. So I remember advertising at Burghley House. Excuse me. So Burghley House is where they do all the horse trials and everything. And it's a very, very prestigious place. It's an absolute fantastic place. And that's not far from Peterborough. So I did a wedding event there. I'd spoken to all local suppliers. I'd spoken to another company called King Brothers. Again, this was a family-run company, and they gave me an ice sculpture for free. And this was a great big swan. I will try and put some pictures up to show you. Those hopefully should be in the top right. And it was just stunning. Now, tracing back, so rewinding, my second childhood home was the White Bungalow, where my dad tried to break it down with an axe. So my first event from Burghley was on the grounds of the White Bungalow. It was just so ironic, and you really couldn't write it. It wasn't in the bungalow. It was in the house behind the bungalow, the big manor house that I did explain. I think it was in part 2. And the lady that previously lived there unfortunately died, so the daughter had taken the estate on and decided to sell up. So there was new owners, a new beginning. And I just remember arriving there. They had a great massive marquee on the grounds of the manor house, and a cook's tent as well. And I just remember thinking, well, this is just crazy. I feel like I've morphed back into my childhood, but on a different spectrum. Excuse me. So we're cooking away, and I remember we were so proud. This is the first wedding, and we were making a lot of profits, from these weddings. It was really starting to take off. I then had an affiliation with a marquee company called JB Marquees, and we would give each other some royalties for recommending. So it really meant that I could turn up the whole package. I could say, right, I've got an affiliation with a marquee company. We can get a cook's tent. We can get all the equipment. All the equipment used to come from a third party, so the stoves, all the crockery, absolutely everything. And that was at the time a company called Whittlesey Catering Hire. They are absolutely fantastic, and it was just crazy. Now, we'd gone from that one wedding to then eventually going on to doing 2 a month. Then it went to 4 a month, and then I remember I'd accidentally double booked a date. So at one time we were having 2 weddings a day. So I had to have a team that I'd known through the industry to go over to one site and facilitate that wedding, and then I would be at either one. So it was fantastic, and I was still working full time at this point. And I then basically, this was a really hard moment, to be honest with you. This was a really hard moment in my life. I then basically handed my notice in at House Safe. And I remember the managing director, Clark Howell, he had sat down and said, look, are you sure about this? And I said, yeah, definitely, 100%. Because the business was taken off, I felt that I was in a position to be able to run with it full time. So I handed my notice in, worked my month's notice, and I had at this time, I had a minimum 4 months of work in the pipeline that was all booked, deposits paid, etc. And yeah, it was quite stressful at the time. So in this time, my wife Jo had given birth to our eldest boy, Lewis. He's now 15, as I said, and at this point he's roughly ran about 6 months old. So I think it was something like 3 weeks after we'd never argued. Me and my ex-wife had never ever argued, and it come to a bit of a shock, and it was a very hard moment that Jo had turned around and said to me, I don't want to be with you anymore. And I was just asking myself why. I was just, why? I trusted you emotionally. You were the first, proper real girlfriend that I had put all my trust emotionally into this one person, and I thought we never argued, we never really bickered even. It was just completely out of the blue. So at this point, my nan's in remission, so she's getting through all the procedures that she needs to get through. And there's me battling now in my personal life, where we had bought a house. We had a mortgage, a fairly cheap mortgage. We'd got a mortgage with Northern Rock at the time, which was 100% mortgage, no deposit needed. That was back in the golden era. And I'm just thinking, shit, what am I meant to do, you know? So she had told me that I then had to respect that decision. It was the most difficult decision to accept. You know, I felt as if I'd failed her, I'd failed Lewis. It was one of the most difficult times of my life. So she was seeking a new place to live. I then was working, and I think blocking what was actually going on, it hadn't really hit me, to be honest with you, and I was just working full time, and she had found a place near her parents, and you know, it was heartbreaking, but I'm a firm believer that you shouldn't hold anybody captive in any shape or form in life, in a relationship. I'd watched all that many years ago during my childhood. You know, then I was questioning my ability. Am I capable of loving somebody? Do I deserve to be in a relationship? You know, it was a moment in my life where I turned everything onto self-reflection, and the past was starting to haunt me again. Should I have argued back? Should I have been a typical lad? But you can't change who you are, that's for sure. So moving day came, and I just could not be there. I just could not. I went out to work, and I remember coming home, and this was the most, reality had really hit me hard now. I opened the door. I said that she could have absolutely everything, you know, because in the day she's got our child. And I just remember walking in that house, and it was empty. And that was the hardest. Believe you me, it was really, really difficult. So I went upstairs, and the only thing that was left in Lewis's room, I remember it very clearly, was his cot and baby grow. And at this point he was only about between 9 and 14 months old. He was still having a bottle, so roughly around about that time. And I just remember breaking down in the room on my knees and just crying. You know, I just couldn't understand what I'd done wrong. You know, Joe Jo was a lovely person, she still is to this day. We got on very, very well. But it was hard. I felt huge failure. I felt regret. Is there anything I could have done? It was just very, very dark time. I'm going to end it there, guys, and we'll be back soon with part 6. Thank you.